You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. Lubbock Congressman Jody Arrington vocal in his support for the president after the events with Iran over the past week, and even angrier about a resolution in the House that would limit the president's ability to use further military action without congressional approval. Arrington saying this would amount to a death sentence for U.S. soldiers against a, quote, murderous mob of mullahs. Arrington voted no, but the resolution passed 224 to 194. And the Senate Finance Committee's approved the new North American trade agreement, sending it to the full Senate vote in the coming days. Texas Senator John Cornyn called it good, not perfect, but voted for it because Texas does billions of dollars of business each year with Canada and Mexico. All right, let's continue our conversation now with State Republican Party Chair candidate Allen West. You know, and I've heard you speak of this in the past, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong, this may be extra important as a role as a state GOP chair, is to get people of color even, to think about politics as philosophy and personal principles more than just a platform or a narrative. Explain how that works and how we get that through to people.
Well, you know, one of the things is, think about this, Bryan. The Republican Party of Texas was founded on July the 4th of 1867 by 150 blacks. One of its early chairmen was a black businessman by the name of Norris Wright Cooney from 1884 to 1898. We're not telling people that. And so that's a powerful tool that you could go out and say, this is the history of this party, but let's talk about the principles and values of this party. I often talk about, folks, you got a choice in life. You can either be a victor or you can be a victim. And so often what I've seen happen, especially in the minority communities and in the black communities, it's been decimated by the politics of victimization. And our families have been destroyed. Education in the inner cities has been destroyed. Small business entrepreneurship has been destroyed. So let's look at how we can bring the policies of small business entrepreneurship and growth back into our inner cities. Let's look at how we can have better church-to-church relationship and communications. When Robert Francis O'Rourke comes out and says, I nicknamed him Bob Frank.
Bob,
yeah, Bob. But when he comes out and says that if churches don't embrace same-sex marriage, they should lose their tax-exempt status. See, if I was chairman, I would have gotten on the phone and I would have called the Black Pastors Association, Hispanic Pastors Association in Texas and said, let's have a talk. And let's talk about where you want to align yourself based upon your principles and values.
Right. There has been a strong, I think, Hispanic Republican presence in this state that's been built over time. That may surprise people who aren't around all that. Can you build on that? Can you take what's been done and build on that some more?
Absolutely, you can. You know, I was down in the Rio Grande Valley area. I've been down to Del Rio, I've been down to Eagle Pass, been over to McAllen. Those people are concerned about securing the border because what they see happening are the drug cartels operating on this side of the border. Texas is the #1 state for human and sex trafficking in the United States of America. Dallas and Houston are the top 2 cities. So yes, there's a great opportunity to talk to a community that is strong in their faith, strong on family, strong on small business entrepreneurship. The difference between the Hispanic community here in Texas than a Hispanic community in California, where you see a lot more of the illegal immigration influx, is that the Spanish community here is hardworking. They're focused, and they want to have the policies that enable them to become more successful, to include the educational policies that enable them to have success with their children and grandchildren.
You know, one of the problems at the state legislative level that we've seen here is that some of the policies put in place for the major population centers can be problematic for folks in Floyd County, down the road here or wherever. Smaller population, not as big a tax base for revenue there to pay for infrastructure, schools, that sort of thing. Can there be better work done there?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And you remember the movie The Hunger Games, where you had the capital and then you had the districts. And everyone out in the districts, they work to provide a certain commodity or service to the capital. I don't want to see that happen in Texas, where all of a sudden the East Texas, the West Texas, those rural areas become the servants to the I-35 corridor. But that's kind of happening right now. And you're kind of getting that us and them mentality between the major population centers, those 8 to 10 counties that make that up, and the rest of Texas, those other 234 or some odd counties. We got to bring folks together. We've got to tailor our policies to make sure that, you know, you can't have the cookie cutter approach. You know, with education freedom, school choice, you can't just say we're going to have it, you know, all across the great state of Texas. No, where do we focus? where we see failures in our schools, and maybe, again, educational opportunity zones, just the same as we have economic opportunity zones.
Is that policy, is that recruiting better candidates for this?
That's a key thing that I have to do as a chairman. Just the same as, you know, as a commander in the unit, you know, you get your recruits that come in, you got to train them, you got to equip them, you got to resource them, and then you got to make sure that you kind of, you know, get them ready to go out there and be on the battlefield. I want to develop a farm team system here in Texas, and it starts with our local level. City council, school board, county commission. That's kind of like your, you know, A level, then the AA level, then the AAA level. Then you have people that are ready to go into the major leagues. We should not be fretting in the state of Texas that we've had 6 members of the United States House of Representatives that want to step down, that want to resign. We should say, hey, who we got? Who's my strong right-hander? Who's my strong left-hander? Let's bring somebody up from the AA or single A level.
Well, and Democrats are doing that.
They do it greatly.
They're investing a lot of money in the state.
They do. And you think about how Mr. O'Rourke, who had $80 million that came into the state of Texas, now he's saying he's going to focus his efforts and his fundraising efforts to flip the Texas State House. So important, Brian, because with those 2 to 3 congressional districts we're going to pick up, we don't want the Democrats to be in control of the Texas State House. That will affect our political landscape for at least 10 years, maybe even greater.
Federal policy hits our rural areas a lot, I think, to me, before it even hits some of the larger population centers. Even trade deals mean a lot to ag futures, and that's our economic ball game out here still. But the wheels turn slowly there. Sometimes not at all. Is there worry as we move into 2020 here that some of those folks might get Trump fatigued, for lack of a better term, waiting for this to happen and say, okay, let's look at someone else, that sort of thing?
Well, I think if that something or someone else is a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or even a Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg, I think that most people realize that's not going to be beneficial to me economically. But it is imperative for President Trump to talk about and help us to understand that long-range vision with some of the policies, especially for our agriculture. And we've got to start looking at how do we bring back the production and manufacturing to go with our agriculture, and how do we get that out here in areas such as Lubbock? You know, how can we have, you know, the manufacturing out here that we can take the cotton crop and we can bring it right into a manufacturing facility right here and start producing, you know, goods and services and commodities and grow the economy and produce the jobs. I mean, that's the thing that we want to see happen.
Makes sense. Just from just being self-sufficient in that area. We've already seen it in the oil and energy industry over the last few months, too.
And think about what the oil and gas industry has done for the United States of America. We are now energy independent, not because Jimmy Carter created the Department of Energy back in the 70s, but because we unleash that indomitable entrepreneurial spirit, that innovation, that ingenuity of hydraulic fracturing. And yet we are going to allow someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to come here into the state of Texas and say we're going to end the oil and gas industry in 10 years. Then what? We go back to being slaves to OPEC. Right. There's a reason why taking out General Soleimani has not affected oil prices, because we don't care. We are net exporting now, and we have those resources ourselves, and that's why I'm saying Texas is a leader in that.
The website is theoldschoolpatriot.com if you want to check that out. You got a new book coming, right?
New book comes out. It's kind of like the history of black conservatism in America. It's called We Can Overcome, an American Black Conservatives Manifesto. And then also West, the number 4 Texas is our campaign website, westfortexas.com.
Social media and the whole thing, go check it out and follow this guy, and maybe throw him a vote once in a while when all that comes around. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, good to see you. Come back soon.
I will. Thank you, my friend.